Hey everyone. There's a couple of things I actually wanted to talk about. Firstly, before I get started too much, I just want to say my apologies for the kids' nursery rhymes playing in the background. I know a lot of you probably hear them all the time anyway, but my son's watching TV while he's eating, so if it bothers you, tough shit, I don't care. But it's keeping him occupied and his needs come first. There's a few things I've been wanting to talk about lately, but there's one that's been really sort of niggling at me, and one that I've been sort of wanting to get off my chest. It came to my attention when a mate of mine actually asked me, why the hell do you talk so much about American politics? And I didn't think I did. But I actually looked back over a few of the things that I'd said lately, and I thought, actually, yeah, nah, fair cop, he's probably right. So I thought, I might take a moment to actually talk about Australia and how it relates to us here, particularly in relation to our firearms laws. And in particular, I want to talk about our firearms laws and why I agree with them. Before anyone goes nuts at me talking about freedom or whatever, next week I'm going to do another video as a companion video to this, talking about why I don't agree with them. Because one thing I invariably find when I start talking about firearms is that I tend to, that's right, Sam, I tend to piss off both sides of the argument. Neither side really agree with me. That's right, yeah. Sorry, he's kind of talking back at me. I don't know if you can hear it on the camera. So firstly, why do I actually agree with Australia's firearm laws? Simple. It had the desired effect. We haven't had a single mass shooting since 1996, since Port Arthur. And again, I'm not going to go down the conspiracy rabbit hole because you know what I think about that, and I've said that previously. So it's had the desired effect. We haven't had a single mass shooting since 1996, since Martin Bryant. Yes, we've had things like, we've had the Lindt siege, where I was wrong in my previous video where I think 4 people died. We had 3, what are they called? Hostages. Those people that they take captive. But 3 hostages die and the shooter, or might have been 4 hostages, I can't remember. So it's 4 or 5 people that died. So, yeah, kind of sucks, but that's one in, what was it, 18 years at that point? Yeah, 18 years. One shooting in 18 years. And again, we still had our fair share of violent crime, but there was no inverse. There was no increase in violent crime after the banning of assault weapons and semi-automatics and pistols and things like that. Fully automatic and semi-automatic weapons were all handed in. So all we really shoot, civilian-wise, is bolt actions and lever actions as far as long arms go. And it's incredibly difficult to get and maintain a pistol license here in Australia. I think there's... And if somebody out there knows the legislation better than me, please correct me. I think it's 12 competitions, 6 or 12 competitions a year that you have to engage in, as well as a lot of the licensing and things like that you've still got to go through, which costs a lot more than a rifle, I think. Again, please correct me if I'm wrong. And that's my main reason, is that there was no spike in violent crime, things like knives and assaults and things like that. There was no large spike after the ban and in the years after it, and there was no more mass shootings after that. It had the desired effect, and that is my main reason. There is no civilian reason to own, say, an AK-47, other than, as Jim Jeffries had put it, fuck off, I like guns. And that's fine. If you like guns, that's cool. And that's what I'll get into next week. But essentially, that's all I wanted to say, was that that's why I support our firearms laws. That's why I think they make sense. I think, as far as hunters go, you don't need a fully automatic weapon to hunt, especially what we hunt here in Australia. Yes, we have deer, we have wild goats, we have wild pigs, but we're not hunting things like grizzly bears. We're not hunting things like a lot of your larger wild game, things like, I think, as far as I know, I think mountain lions are protected in America. We don't have a lot of your big cats and a lot of things like moose and that kind of thing. Which, the way I see it anyway, if you're a decent shot, you shouldn't need a fully automatic weapon anyway to hunt game. The main thing, especially in Eastern Victoria, that we'll be looking at, I know that there's deer in the Grampians, that Western Victoria, sorry. I meant to say Eastern Australia. I know we have deer in the Grampians, we have a lot of rabbits, we have a lot of foxes, we have a lot of pigs. And really, a 5-shot bolt action, if you're a decent shot, and you've got a decent caliber weapon, it shouldn't take 1, maybe 2 bullets. If you've got an arrow, if you've got a bow and arrow, something with a decent poundage, if you're a decent shot, and you're using a broadhead, again, you might plug 1 arrow into it, but you might have to plug 2, so you might have to track it again. So, and if you're in a hunting blind anyway, you know, you're not going to get gored by a pig. You're not going to, maybe you're not in a hunting blind, I don't know, it depends on what you're doing, but there's no reason you need a 30 round fully automatic weapon to shoot game, especially if you're planning on eating it. something like a 303 on a rabbit, it's bye-bye rabbit. You're not getting any meat out of it. So that's, I just wanted to just make that quick video and just really just clear that up, because I've been, I don't want to say I've been getting harassed, but I've been asked about my views, and neither side I find can really reconcile their views with me. And I'll go into that next week as to why I think that our laws don't make sense. I think that, you know, I like our knife laws as it is, but I think that there are some sort of leniencies that need to be addressed and need to be looked at. As far as really just differences between blades. But thank you for watching. I'm glad that this rant was a lot less profanity laced than my last, and I'll see you next week.